Hey everyone, this is Mark from Circle of the Dark Mother. Today I'm going to do a reading from the Embracing Lilith book, and I'm going to read part of the myth. Just to give you a little bit of insight into it, I wanted to talk a little bit about it first. So the myth in Embracing Lilith, if you read the book Embracing Lilith, it starts out with information, history. It goes into then a pretty long, sort of like a novella version of the myth about Lilith, and then it goes into experiential pieces. Um, with the myth, I want to speak to it because there's a lot of confusion. So first of all, it is a myth. It's not meant to have happened the way it's told. It's not meant to be historically accurate. It's also not meant to even be the way things happened. It's meant to give you an idea for personality and a story. And the way I wrote it was I called to Lilith and asked her what she wanted me to do. What she had me do was read all the myths about her. And then I started just writing, and every morning I would have a new piece. The myth, again, it's a story, so take it as that. I also want to say that there's a lot of criticism about the fact that Lilith is not as dark as some would like her, and Samiel is portrayed as very dark. And that's on purpose. What we need to understand as we're reading this myth is the myth is designed to show that actually Lilith, Samiel, Adam, and Eve are all parts of us. So what's happening here, it's mostly about the aspect of Lilith, but it's also about us, and it's about the four parts of us: the feminine severe, the feminine merciful, the masculine severe, and the masculine merciful. And it's about the guilt we feel sometimes about who we are. And it's about making mistakes, but are we? Or are we really growing? So please don't take the myth as literal, or that I'm saying Lilith said this is how it happened. Again, it's a story. So just wanted to put that out there. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. And here we go. I'm going to do a reading from the first chapter, not the whole thing, but about half of it. So chapter 1 starts with the quote. So God, in Hebrew, Elohim, created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, Elohim, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Genesis 1:27. Over the centuries, I've had many names and many faces. I have been many women, appeared to some a hideous demon, and to others a beautiful angel. There are so many stories about me, I can no longer count them. All are true, even if the facts are not quite right. Because over the endless years I have existed, I have done and seen everything imaginable. If you already heard of me, I ask you to put aside your preconceived notions, good or bad, so you may experience what I have to say with an open heart and mind. I don't ask this for myself, but for you. You see, I could cut to the chase, as they say, and tell you what I am and what my true purpose is, but that would be cheating. You need to make your own choices and come to your own conclusions, so my story can impact you as it may. If nothing else, I hope learning more about me will help you know more about yourself. My story begins in a place you know as Eden. I imagine when you read this, you may jump to the conclusion I am the one called Eve. I don't blame you for this assumption, because Eve is certainly more well-known and more accepted, but I am not her. I am named Lilith, and I was Adam's first wife. This may be a shocking revelation to some, because modern religion has all but forgotten me. There are hints of my existence in the canonical scriptures of Judaism and Christianity, but to really know anything of me, you have to look deeper into the texts, which have been abandoned by many, the so-called mystical works of Jewish Midrash and Kabbalah. You can also find me in some of the epics of Sumer, including Gilgamesh. I will warn you, if you decide to take the voyage through time involved in exploring all of these works, you may become more confused than you were before you started. There are many inferences and contradictions surrounding me, but as I've already stated, my history is not simple. Eden is not a physical location on the earth, but instead a spiritual realm. It is a place at the center of the first heaven known as Tibul Valan. The concept of multiple heavens may also be new to you and something you have never considered. I'm sure you have heard the phrase seventh heaven. Well, the words aren't just a flight of fancy. There are literally seven heavens. Although all the heavens are wondrous places of spiritual light, none of them is where God Most High dwells. To go where God dwells, one must pass beyond the seventh heaven to the supernal realm. Tibble is the image of a paradisical earth with all the potential of flora and fauna, a place of great beauty. Eden, being the center of the first heaven, is a perfect place of harmony and balance, an ideal environment for God to create his or her first human souls, a place we could grow and learn without the taint of any kind of darkness or separation. It truly was paradise. You may have noticed I refer to God in both the masculine and feminine genders. This is because God at his core is actually neither. And like anything or anyone that can be considered outside of the spiritual realm, God is truly unknowable. But through the act of creation, God, who is called Yahweh Elohim, has manifested as Father and Mother. So creation can know and be known. This really isn't as hard a concept as one may think. You may probably worn many hats in your time as a child, student, brother, sister, father, mother, and so on. This is how God Most High manifests as both our Father and our Mother. They are personas or roles taken out of love. Adam and I were both created at the same time. Mother God, Elohim, fashioned us from the substance of creation and then breathed life into us, giving us soul and spirit, making us human. Because God is both male and female, father and mother, we were both created as male and female. Adam's dominant energy was male, but he also contained a female side to his essence. My dominant energy was female, but I contained a male side to my essence. I know this seems strange, but remember, we lived in a spiritual realm, the first heaven, Tibble. We were not encased in physical form, but instead existed as beings of energy in astral form. This balance of male and female that we shared is at the heart of creation and true of everything physical and spiritual. I have brief flashes of memory of being made. Mother God manifesting as white light, speaking directly to my mind, telling me mysteries of the universe and creation. I can vaguely recall her asking me something, but there my memories end. I can't remember much else other than a loving presence enfolding me with light and consciousness dawning within my form. As I stated, these memories are just flashes and vague impressions with little substance. The strange thing is that when I asked Adam about this, he remembered nothing. All he could recall was waking in the garden after the whole process was complete. He did repeatedly remind me he woke first, leading to his conclusion he was created before me. When I say we didn't have physical bodies, it's true, but we did exist in what approximated physical reality within the astral and spiritual realm. Adam and I lived in the garden for what may have been aeons. Although we have no concept of time, we were both innocent, having no ideas of good and evil. Our lives were simple. We existed in a primordial paradise with no wants and every need fulfilled. Angels attended us. God, our mother and father, dwelt with us, and everything seemed as it should be. At the center of Eden, in the center of the first heaven, there stands a tree with rivers flowing in 4 directions from its roots. The tree is known as the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Our only command was not to eat of this tree. We never questioned what would happen if we did, and truthfully, we didn't even understand its dualism. We blindly accepted we should not touch it, and we stayed away. Eden is truly a paradise. All the animal and plant species that ever have or will evolve on Earth live there in harmony. The beauty of Eden is beyond imagining and something which cannot be described. Think of the most beautiful day in the most beautiful place you have ever been without any fear, unfulfilled need, or loneliness. This is Eden. We ate, we slept, and we would come together in union, not physical sexuality as many have portrayed, but in spiritual unity, combining our essences to be more than each alone. We thought nothing of this in the beginning. It just was what it was. After a time, Adam began to feel he should be dominant, and in our joining, the one to control how, when, and in what way it happened. I became increasingly unhappy with this arrangement. At first, I didn't understand what I was feeling. I just didn't enjoy being with Adam as much as I had in the beginning. After a time, I began to realize our union gave me less and less pleasure, and I actually felt more alone afterward than I did before. I didn't understand the idea of being lonely in my head, but my soul felt the ache of not being fulfilled. Eventually, I couldn't bear the pain any longer, and I spoke up. Husband, why must you always be the one in control of our joining? I asked Adam with genuine curiosity and hurt. because I'm the husband, I'm male and was first. That's not true. We were created at the same time in the same way. Neither one of us needs to be superior or dominant. Why can't we take turns or be unified as equals? No, was all he answered as he walked away. In that moment, something within me changed. In retrospect, I realized my innocence had been broken. I no longer lived in non-duality. I went from a place of being unconsciously unified with Adam, God, and Eden to feeling separated and in many ways isolated. I now knew anger. The word no reverberated through my mind, growing louder and louder until I couldn't take it anymore. How dare you? I screamed. Adam turned and looked at me with his eyes wide, truly bewildered at what was happening. He still had no knowledge of good and evil and had no frame of reference to understand my emotion or my anger. I made a decision. I couldn't stay in Eden, and I could not endure that Adam did not feel the same brokenness I did. I wanted him to feel pain. I didn't know it at the time because I had never seen death, but I wanted to murder this man before me. How could he cause me such anguish? It needed to stop no matter what the cost, and I would have gladly snuffed out his life if I knew how. So I called out the secret name of God. This secret name was not something I had remembered until then, but I had a sudden flash of Mother God whispering it to my soul, telling me I would know when to speak it. The bursting forth of emotion freed this memory from its hiding place in my consciousness. As I spoke the same, I began to lift off the ground, levitating slowly up and away from the garden. Adam looked up at me for a few moments and then turned back to whatever he had intended before my outburst. This only fueled my resolve, and in a rage, I headed east to the land of Nod. I must confess there was no grand design in my departure, no plan. All I could think of was getting as far away from Adam as I could. In my fury, I wanted to hurt him as much as he had hurt me. My only idea was to leave him so he could feel the same ache in his heart. It felt like my chest had a gaping wound and I would never recover. I knew nothing of the land of Nod prior to arriving there. I had never been out of Eden, but Nod drew me like a beacon, and I ultimately found myself coming to rest there. Nod is not like Eden. It is desolate. It is forlorn. Its forlorn appearance reflected my own mood back to me. Nod means exile, and this was a land of exile. Being a husk of Eden, existing in a shadow realm. Cracked, dry brown earth composed the barren land. Black, scraggly trees and brush were scattered around the terrain. The animals in Nod are all the unwanted creatures of the night. Serpents, rats, bats, grotesque insects, and nighttime predators, which hunt in the eternal twilight of Nod. Other beings too lived in this place of despair, all creatures of shadow and darkness. You see, wherever there is a restriction in the light, there is darkness. So anywhere outside of God's supernal realm, there is always the potential for ignorance to exist. This is the nature of free will, and why this darkness is allowed, even though God loves his or her creation. Luckily for me, the denizens of Nod saw in me something I didn't see, the fact I had great potential for light, but also for darkness. No, they stayed away, knowing I could cause far more destruction than they wished to endure. The story goes from there for Lilith finding out she's been replaced by Eve. Not a spoiler, I'm sure you knew that already. And it takes us all the way through to the Common Era, with Lilith finding out who she is and what her purpose is. And as I said before, it's a story. It's not meant to be that this is the way it happened. It's also meant to show us who we are. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you did, let me know. I might do more readings from the book. And also, of course, you can buy the book on Amazon. Thank you and take care.